Red Riding Hood from Brave Red Smart Frog. There was once a forest, a strange forest, where it was always winter. You've heard of it before. Nothing good to ever Nothing good to eat grew there. All the streams were frozen, and no fish ever swam in them. Almost no one lived there either. Only some dwarves, tree sprites, and an untold number of witches, and one or two humans who weren't suited for ordinary life. As you might imagine, the animals of the frozen forest were very, very hungry. Though the trees carved winding paths too thin and icy for horses to walk, and deep among the trees lay a locked house built years ago by a man and a woman who had quarreled with their relatives and liked to live alone. Now the man was dead, and the woman was very old indeed. We shall call her grandmother, though she had not seen her daughter in a long, long time, and had never met her granddaughter at all. Where the wintry trees stopped, near a warm sunny meadow where white horses roamed, lay another house. This house itself looked relieved, as if it had narrowly escaped being swallowed by the forest. In it lived a girl who was always called Red, because of the hooded red cloak she wore when she rode horses in the meadow. One day, Red's mother received a letter delivered by a dwarf. Grandmother, who lived in the locked house deep in a wintry forest, grandmother was ill. She longed to see her granddaughter. She wanted to gaze on the rosy cheeks and bright eyes of the youth before she died. Grandmother did not wish to see anyone else. Indeed, she asked them not to come. Red's mother baked corn cakes, a gift for the grandmother, an apology, a peacemaking. When the cakes were ready, clouds were gathering in the sky. Red's mother asked her not to go. The frozen forest was dangerous enough without a storm. But Red would not hear of any more delay. Grandmother wanted her. Grandmother was dying. She would go. Mother drew her a map to guide her through the dangerous woods, and Red walked into the dark. The bare branches of the trees clicked across one another. Red's cloak billowed out behind her. Snow began to fall. She had been walking for nearly an hour when the wind snatched the map from her hand. It flew into the clutches of an oak. Could she climb and retrieve it? No, the tree was coated in ice. Could she turn home? No, she might never meet her grandmother. Are you lost? The voice she heard was coated in honey. Red started and looked around. There was no one there, no one she could see. I am not lost, she lied. Where are you going? Asked the voice. Red made out two warm eyes peering from behind a tree. A wolf, scrawny, wet with snow and starving. My grandmother lives in this forest, Red told him. She is expecting me. That is your grandmother in the sugar house? No. The stone house? No. In the locked house, then? Asked the wolf. Yes, answered Red. That must be her. He trotted toward her like a dog and sniffed at the napkin covering the corn cakes. They're a gift, she said, but take one. You look hungry. Red gave him a still warm cake. The wolf ate it in 2 bites. You are very kind, he said. May I have another? He was so hungry, starving even. But Red clutched her basket to her chest. I'm sorry, but you may not, she told him. They are a gift for grandmother, an apology, a peacemaking. She's weak and dying. The wolf's eyes grew big. He licked his lips. For the first time, Red was afraid. But then he wagged his tail. Thank you for the 1 cake anyway. In return, I will tell you the shortest path to your grandmother's. The wolf gave clear directions. Bear right, not left. Cross the frozen stream to the fallen tree. Bear left, not right. All the while Red was thinking, I am so glad I found him. So glad I helped him. If not, for certain I'd be lost in this storm. All the while, the wolf was thinking, the locked house is warm and full of good smells. But till this day, grandmother was too smart to answer the scratchable wolf at her door. Today she's weak and dying. Today, as never before, she is expecting company. And I am so hungry, he thought. So very hungry. Goodbye, said Red. Thank you. Goodbye, said the wolf. Travel safely. He felt his fur prickle in disgust at what he knew he was about to do. Red walked, bearing right instead of left, crossing the frozen stream, bearing left instead of right. She kept her cloak tight about her as protection. The walk took nearly an hour, but because the snow fell so hard and fast, and because the wind blew loud and mean, she traveled safely. No other animals were hunting. The wolf trotted through the trees only a short way. He knocked with a cold paw at the door of the locked house. "Who is it?" Grandmother took a long time coming to the door. "Granddaughter," said the wolf, altering his voice as best he could. "You expect me, don't you?" "Red?" "Yes, I've come to see you, Grandmother." Grandmother unlocked the door. The smell of potato soup reached the wolf. The door opened inward, and he was upon her. He swallowed her whole, then swallowed her soup and her bread and her ale. He rummaged her closet and put on her clothes. Red arrived walking slowly, head bowed against the wind. She tapped the door only to find it swing in at her touch. "Grandmother," she called, entering. "It's Red. I've come with a basket of corn cakes." No answer, but the bedroom door was open. "Grandmother?" Red set the basket on the kitchen table and pushed forward. She had never met her grandmother. The figure before her was gnarled and frail, wrapped tightly in a robe and scarf. "Grandmother?" Red said again as she approached. "Do you know me?" "I know you," said the wolf. "What big eyes you have," she said, her voice no louder than a whisper. "The better to see you with, my dear. Come closer." Red stepped and stepped. "What big ears you have." "The better to hear you with, my dear. Come closer still." It was her grandmother, it must be. Her grandmother had written and asked for Red in her last days of life. Red stepped and stepped. "What big teeth you have," she said as she came to her bed. And the wolf, though he hated himself, though he hated the frozen forest and what it had made of him, the wolf hated hunger even more. "The better to eat you with, my dear," he said, and pounced. He was so hungry he swallowed Red whole. It only took a moment, and she didn't feel any pain. It was the wolf who felt pain, but he did not stop himself till the last of the red hood was down his throat. Now the grandmother, soup, bread, ale, and Red. The wolf, who should have been sated, but deep hunger can be like this. Eating merely makes you want more. He threw off his clothes and dragged his stuffed body to the kitchen. He ate the corn cakes. He knew that he could be spied clearly through the window in a locked house, but no one would see him, he thought. Hardly anyone came into the icy forest, and today the sky was black with storms. Still, someone did see the wolf. A huntsman returning from a terrible errand stood outside the locked house, wondering if he might take shelter there from the cold. He knew full well that a wolf on a kitchen table is dangerous thing, and he was out to hunt a wolf in any case. The huntsman pushed the unlocked door open and discharged his rifle. Blood spattered across the grandmother's tablecloth. The hungry wolf was no more. The huntsman shut the door against the cold. He rebuilt the fire. Then he took his knife and cut open the wolf. He needed the heart for his purposes. Red was there, inside the wolf, alive and breathing. Grandmother was there too. They too were there, embracing and laughing, even though they were strangers. They were safe and warm, and that was suddenly more than lucky enough in this world. The snow piled high outside, and the three people were grateful for what they had, there in the locked house, in the forest of winter. Travel home, they would wait for another day.